I was staring at the front door when his voice cracked through the apartment like a thunderclap. "You're sending the money tonight." My fingers found the deadbolt before my brain caught up. Click. The lock sounded like a gavel. "I'm Maya, a black woman born and raised in Savannah, Georgia. And this is the moment I realized love shouldn't cost me my peace. If you've ever been pushed past your limits, stay with me, because I want to hear how you found your way back. I'm not perfect. I'm sharing this because somebody needs to know they're not alone. This is our life in a second-floor walk-up off Abercorn Street, where the cicadas hum louder than apologies, and the neighbors smell the drama through thin walls." He didn't even look up from his phone, thumbs flying like he was DJing somebody else's emergency. "Mom said the light bill is due. Aunt Tanya's car is down. We can't leave them hanging." His tone had that practiced softness, the one that pretends to be gentle while cornering you. The lamplight smudged his face into shadows and angles. He had the same old pitch, same sad orchestra behind it. But tonight, something brittle in me refused to bend. "I already helped last month," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. My keys were in my hoodie pocket. My purse waited on the table like it knew the move before I did. "And the month before that? And the one before that?" I didn't say. "I covered your overdrafts, your little brother's textbooks, your cousin's temporary rent." I didn't say, "My therapy copay got pushed. My tires are balding. My credit card interest is flirting with ruin." He scoffed, a laugh clogged with disrespect. "You act like it's your money alone. We're building a life, right?" His eyebrows rose like a dare. Family helps family. There it was, the word "we" doing push-ups, bench pressing my boundaries. The silence between us grew heavy, full of every time I let myself be talked into being the solution. I could hear my mama's voice from years ago, in our tiny yellow kitchen that smelled like cocoa butter and skillet cornbread. "Baby, a good heart will drown if you don't learn where the shore is." He moved closer, not menacing, just sure, which somehow felt worse. "It's just a few hundred, Maya. You said you got that bonus." I said I earned that bonus. My throat tightened. "For me." He rolled his eyes. "You selfish now?" Selfish. That word was a knife dressed as a compliment, the kind that cuts clean. I thought about the nights I stayed up balancing spreadsheets at work and balancing his emergencies at home. About the corners of myself I kept rounding off to fit inside his version of partnership. I thought about the day he first asked, all tenderness and promises, and the day after, when tenderness turned into expectation, like flowers turning into weeds overnight. In the hallway, a door shut. Somewhere above us, a baby cried, then quieted. The AC rattled. This building kept our secrets like a nosy auntie who pretends she's asleep. My heart was beating so loud it felt like it would wake the whole block. I took a breath that tasted like decision. "No," I said. This time it came out like a full sentence. "I'm not sending money to your family tonight. I'm not your bank." His mouth twisted. "You know what? Maybe you ain't built for this. Maybe you don't understand what loyalty looks like." I wanted to scream that loyalty without reciprocity is just a leash. Instead, I held his stare. The room felt smaller, as if the walls were leaning in, waiting for me to shrink. But I didn't shrink. I reached for my purse, and for the first time, I didn't explain my movement. "Where are you going?" The laugh was gone. "Maya, don't be dramatic." I didn't answer. I grabbed my charger, my planner, the folder with my pay stubs, and the duplicate key to my cousin's place in Atlanta. I slid my laptop into its sleeve, hands steady like I'd practiced packing in my sleep. Maybe I had. Sometimes you make an exit in your head for months before your feet catch on. He stepped between me and the door. "We not done." I looked at him, at the man who could be charming enough to turn a long line at the DMV into a block party, who danced in our kitchen to old Usher songs, who told me my black girl magic made every room brighter. I also looked at the man who never learned the difference between help and dependency. Both men were standing there. Only one of them loved me. "We are," I said, and the words landed like truth does. Heavy, beautiful, undeniable. He reached for my wrist. Not rough, but firm. Enough to freeze me in place. "Let's talk." Talking is how we got stuck. I pulled away. My knuckles brushed the cool metal of the deadbolt. I could hear my pulse in my ears, a drumline racing the clock. "I'm done funding your family. I'm done being the villain when I say no." He stared at me, jaw tight. If you walk out over this, don't come back. That's the thing about ultimatums. Sometimes they're open doors pretending to be walls. I thumbed the lock, opened the door, and stepped into the humid Savannah night. The hallway smelled like someone's fried fish and fabuloso. I didn't look back. Down the stairs, past the bulletin board with the missing cat flyer and the church fish fry announcement. The cicadas were loud enough to drown prayers. My car, a gold Camry older than my patience, waited under the flickering streetlight. I slid in, tossed my bag on the passenger seat, and caught my reflection in the rear view. My eyes looked like my mama's when she decided to leave my father's ghost behind and move us to a safer block. Determined. Kind. Done. The driver's seat hugged me like a friend. Engine on. Headlights cut a path through the humidity. He called my name from the second-floor railing, voice bouncing off brick and bravado. I put the car in drive. I didn't peel out. Didn't make a scene. I just moved, the way water finds its exit. As I rolled past the corner store where Mr. Leon held my favorite peach sodas, past the church with the slanted cross that always made me laugh, I felt fear and freedom wrestle in my chest. My phone buzzed with his texts, first pleading, then angry, then silent. The night opened its mouth and swallowed the sounds. At the first red light, I inhaled slow and let it go even slower, like my therapist taught me. 4 counts in, 6 counts out. You deserve reciprocity, she'd said last week, peering over her glasses. You deserve a yes that doesn't cost you rent and dignity. Green light. I turned toward the highway, the one that could carry me straight to Atlanta before dawn if I wanted. The road hummed under my tires, a low, steady promise. I didn't know exactly where I'd land, but I knew this. I had just taught myself a new language. No. And my mouth was fluent. If any part of this hits home, tell me in the comments how you knew it was time to go. Maybe your moment wasn't a lock clicking or a night drive. Maybe it was a whisper during laundry or a sad Sunday nap. I want to hold space for that. I want to hear the sound of your freedom, too. Before the lock clicked, and the night swallowed my taillights, there was a slow-burn love story that tasted like pralines and sounded like brass on River Street. I met him one sticky July at a community fundraiser down by the Savannah riverfront. The band was doing their best Maze and Frankie Beverly. Kids were chasing bubbles, and the air smelled like smoked ribs and sunscreen. He walked up with that easy smile people trust before they know better. You look like you know the difference between sweet tea and sugar water, he said, and I laughed even though I'd heard 100 corny lines before. He asked my name. Maya. He said it back like a promise. He wasn't loud. He was intentional. He remembered tiny things, how I take my grits, butter, salt, never sugar, the chipped pinky nail I keep forgetting to fix, the way I hum when I'm focused. I felt seen, not scanned, like he wasn't inventorying me but noticing me. On our first real date, we ate shrimp and grits at a diner that still had a cracked Elvis clock over the register. He asked about my parents, my work, the nonprofit I volunteer for on Saturdays. When he laughed, the couple in the next booth smiled like they were rooting for us. In the parking lot, we danced to the music spilling from someone's car, headlights framing us like a stage. That night, I called my cousin Danny and said, "Girl, he feels like a summer storm. Warm, sudden, drenching." Church folks saw us together and started using words like favor. Aunties nodded like they knew something. My mama eyed him with that gentle suspicion she reserves for men who shine too bright too soon. "Charm is cheap," she said, while twisting her hair with blue rollers. "Consistency costs." He kept showing up, jumped my car when my battery died, brought lemon ginger tea when I had the flu, sat through my favorite documentaries without pretending to be bored. When I told him a white manager had tried to take credit for my data model at work, he didn't offer a solution before he offered solidarity. "You're the brain in that room," he said. "Don't you dare shrink." He had a family that felt big and messy and alive. Cousins who treated every Tuesday like a reunion. A mom who made gumbo that could end wars. An uncle who swore he'd met James Brown at a gas station. The first cookout I went to, I brought store-bought potato salad like a rookie and got roasted so lovingly I wanted to cry and laugh at the same time. He held my hand under the folding table, thumb tracing circles, and whispered, "Welcome home." I believed him. The proposal came in November, under the live oaks draped in Spanish moss, the world looking like it wanted to bless us. He knelt on a plaid blanket, the ring catching a friendly slice of sunlight. "Marry me, Maya. Let's build something nobody can break." I said yes so fast the old couple walking their poodle clapped. We told everybody at once, and the church ladies nearly levitated. Mama hugged me hard and whispered, "I need him to protect your softness, not spend it." I told her not to worry. That winter we sat with a premarital counselor from church. We filled in worksheets about expectations and money and conflict. He ranked family obligations as high. I did too, imagining holidays and babysitting, not budgets and bailouts. When the counselor asked about finances, he squeezed my knee. "Teamwork," he said. "Always." The wedding was small and sweet, magnolia blossoms tucked into pew bows, my uncle playing keys while my cousin sang Ribbon in the Sky. My dress was fitted and simple, and when I walked down the aisle, he cried without shame. We jumped the broom on a borrowed porch under string lights, and the aunties wept like the ancestors were sitting with plates fixed. Mama leaned in while she pinned a blue silk ribbon to my bouquet. "Remember the shore," she said, that old warning folded into joy. I nodded because I didn't want to think about limits when everything felt like abundance. In those first months, marriage was music. Sunday pancakes, joint playlists for cleaning, kisses in the cereal aisle, inside jokes we carried like lucky pennies. He loved when I won, took pictures of me holding my promotion letter, bragged to anybody with ears. He also insisted we put our checks into one joint account, arguing that separate money was room for secrets. I pushed back gently. "I still want an individual account for my own purchases," I said. He disagreed firmly, then softened, holding me from behind while we stood at the sink. "We're one. Don't make it transactional," he murmured into my hair. I compromised like I'd been trained to. I kept a modest personal account for little things and dropped my real money, the serious grown woman money, into the joint. Tiny hairline cracks introduced themselves as jokes. "Your job's the fancy one," he'd say, "so you cover anything that needs a signature." I'd swat him with a dish towel, and we'd move on. When his brother needed help with a security deposit, we gave it from us, and I didn't think to ask if us included a plan to get paid back. When his mama's roof had a leak, we fronted the repair and told ourselves we were investing in family stability. He always said it like a verse. We're building a legacy. If I had a red flag, it was the way legacy sometimes sounded like, Maya will solve it. But then he'd rub my feet and tell me I was his miracle, and the flag would fold itself into something that looked like celebration. The nights we cooked together, he'd move through the kitchen like choreography, towel over his shoulder, singing off key. He made me feel soft in a world that keeps asking black women to be armor. It's hard to step away from that softness, even when it starts costing interest. The first argument about money wasn't really about money. It was about holidays. His family expected us at everything, and when I suggested alternating years so we could travel to see my mama's people in Jacksonville, he grew quiet in that brittle way. "My folks need me," he said. "We can't skip. They count on us." I heard the shift. Need, can't, count. The nouns got heavier. I compromised again, splitting weekends and driving sleepy on Mondays, pretending our bodies weren't edging toward exhaustion. Our counselor reminded us to check the balance between giving and depletion. We nodded, promising to schedule monthly finance talks. We did the first two, ate takeout, opened the app, and smiled at the tidy categories I'd set up. Then life sped up, promotion deadlines, his uncle's surgery, my friend Jasmine's baby shower, and those meetings became, "We'll do it next week." Next week stretched like gum until it thinned out and disappeared. One spring afternoon, when the azaleas were loud and pink in everybody's yard, he showed up at my office with flowers and lunch. My coworkers teased me, happy for our rom-com moment. In the car, he kissed my forehead and said, "Proud of you, Mrs. Analyst." Then, almost casually, "Let's move your bonus straight into the joint. I want to take care of some things." He said it like a gift, not a request. I looked at the bouquet and the dashboard, and the future. "What things?" I asked. His answer was a shrug wrapped in charm. "You know, household, a few family odds and ends. I'll handle it." I wanted to be handled, adored, carried. I also wanted transparency. Two wants, tugging. That night I thumbed the edge of my pay stub, hearing Mama in my head and the counselor on paper. He kissed my shoulder and whispered, "Trust me." I told myself I could trust and verify later. I walked to the laptop, opened the banking app, and hovered over the transfer button while the house hummed with married quiet. Somewhere, a seam sighed. The first time I met his family, I thought I'd stepped into a reunion that never ended. The smell of fried catfish and cornmeal hung in the air, gospel played from a Bluetooth speaker, and laughter bounced off the porch like music. I remember thinking, this is what belonging feels like. His mama, Miss Brenda, hugged me so tight I lost my breath for a second. "Chilly, you finally brought her home," she said, as if I'd been a missing puzzle piece she'd been praying for. His cousins, uncles, and nieces rotated through introductions like a relay team. Everyone seemed so genuine, warm, loud, alive, but by dessert time, the warmth started showing its teeth. "So," his cousin Shonda said, spoon halfway to her mouth, "you the one with that big job at the bank, right? Y'all married now. Means you married into the struggle too." The table laughed, and I laughed with them because that's what you do the first time you meet folks who test your boundaries and jokes. My husband, Andre, squeezed my knee under the table, smiling like it was harmless. I didn't know it yet, but that moment was a prophecy dressed as humor. The next few months became a steady stream of small asks. It started sweet. His mama's phone bill got behind. His little brother needed gas money to get to work. His aunt's medication cost more than expected. Andre always said, "Just this once, babe." And I always said yes because love sounds like generosity when you're still trying to prove you belong. At first I framed it as teamwork. Marriage is give and take, right? We both came from Black Southern families that believed in pitching in, lifting each other up, passing the blessing forward. My mama used to slip $20 bills into her sister's purse after Sunday dinner, pretending she dropped it. Helping was tradition. But Mama also had rules. Don't set yourself on fire to keep everybody warm. I didn't realize how close I was standing to the match. One Saturday morning, we were supposed to drive to Tybee Island for a little beach getaway. My idea of rest after closing a major project at work. I was halfway through packing snacks when he came into the kitchen, phone pressed to his ear. His expression shifted from concern to guilt, then to decision. He hung up. "Baby, I know you're gonna hate this, but my mom's car broke down. She needs about $600 for the alternator. Can we—" I cut him off gently. "Andre, we've been saving for this trip for months." He sighed, leaning on the counter. "She's got no one else, Maya. You know that. That line. It always worked. No one else." It was his family's signature melody, and I danced to it like muscle memory. "We'll figure it out," I said, even as disappointment coiled in my gut. We canceled the trip. I wired the money. His mother texted me a thank you full of heart emojis. Andre wrapped his arms around me that night and said, "You're a real one." I told myself that meant something. Then came Thanksgiving. My mama had been cooking since Wednesday. Collards, dressing, mac and cheese, sweet potato pie. Our house smelled like heaven and black joy. But Andre insisted we do dinner with his family first, just for an hour. An hour turned into 4. His family asked when we were going to start a business, since Maya got that finance brain. His uncle winked. "Y'all should invest in something that blesses the family." By dessert, they were throwing out ideas like dice at a craps table, a convenience store, a party bus, a catering business. Andre nodded along, arm around my chair, whispering, "See? Visionaries." I smiled, but my stomach knotted. I'd seen this before, back when I was a little girl watching my aunt's boyfriend run through her savings on ventures that never made it past the kitchen table. When we finally made it to my mama's house, her eyes narrowed before I even said a word. "You look drained," she said, handing me a plate. She didn't press. She never did. She just fed me, like food could patch what pride couldn't. In December, I started noticing patterns. Every time a new expense came up, Andre's mood shifted until I agreed to help. If I hesitated, he got quiet, then defensive. "I can't believe you don't want to help my people," he'd say. And "my" always sounded like a wall between us. One night, after wiring another few hundred to his sister for her moving fund, I checked our joint account and saw the balance dipping lower than I expected. Rent was fine, bills were fine, but the cushion was gone. I asked him about it. "Oh," he said, shrugging. "I spotted my cousin a little. He's getting on his feet." "Without telling me?" I asked. He frowned. "It's not like it's just your money. That was the first real argument that left me sleeping on the couch. Not because I wanted to, but because the silence after that fight was too thick to breathe in our bedroom. A few days later, I got a text from his mom. "Thank you, baby. You always come through." My fingers froze on the screen. I hadn't sent her anything. When Andre walked in, I showed him the message. His eyes darted away. "Babe, I just used the card for her groceries. It's not a big deal." "It's a big deal when you're using my debit card," I said. My voice cracked. Without asking. He exhaled hard, like I was being dramatic. "You're missing the point. Family doesn't keep score." I wanted to scream, but banks do. That night while he showered, I sat on the edge of the bed scrolling through our transactions. The pattern looked like a story told in withdrawals. $150 here, $300 there. Always for family. Always before a weekend. The thing is, I loved his people. I loved their loud Sunday dinners, their faith, their stories about surviving. But love shouldn't come with invoices. A week before Christmas, Miss Brenda called me directly. "Hey, baby," she said, sweet as honey. "I know y'all just helped with the car, but I need a little extra this month for lights. Don't tell Andre I called. He'd fuss." That was when the shift happened. Not a loud one, but a quiet click somewhere deep inside. I realized they didn't just see me as family. They saw me as a resource. I told her gently, "I'm sorry, Miss Brenda, but I can't this time." "We're tightening up." There was a pause, then a soft sigh that carried guilt like a sermon. "I understand, baby. I just thought you'd want to help." When I hung up, my hands were shaking. I wasn't sure if it was anger, sadness, or both. Andre came home later that night with flowers. Again, he always used flowers like punctuation. "For my beautiful wife," he said, kissing my cheek. "Long day?" I looked at him, wondering if he knew his mama had called. Maybe he did. Maybe they coordinated the act without words. I smiled anyway, because pretending was easier than fighting. But while he laughed at some sitcom rerun, I thought about the money, the favors, the small ways I kept saying yes when my heart whispered no. Boundaries are funny like that. You don't notice they're gone until someone starts living in the space where they used to be. And I had just realized my front door was wide open. It was early spring, the kind of Savannah morning that smelled like rain and jasmine. I'd just made a fresh pot of coffee, standing in the kitchen with my robe tied loose when Andre walked in wearing that nervous smile that always meant bad news wrapped in charm. He kissed my temple, poured himself a mug, and leaned against the counter like he was trying to look casual. "Baby, I need to talk to you about something." I looked up from my laptop. That's never how a good sentence starts. He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You remember my cousin Terrence? The one with the trucking business?" I nodded, suspicious already. "Well, he hit a snag. One of his contracts fell through, and he's short on a down payment for a new truck. He just needs a loan. Temporary. A few thousand. He'll pay it back in a month. 2 max." I closed my laptop. "A few thousand?" Andre rubbed the back of his neck. I told him we could help. Just until he's back on his feet. "You know he's been trying to do right." I stared at him, heartbeat quickening. "You told him we could help before even asking me?" He shifted, eyes darting. "I didn't want to stress you till I knew the details, but it's not a big deal. You've got that bonus sitting there, right? We'll just lend him $3,000. He's family, Maya." There it was again. Family, that word he weaponized like scripture. $3,000 is not a small favor, I said. "That's rent. That's bills. That's Mars." He sighed, setting his mug down harder than he meant to. "I know you work hard. I know you've got your systems and your budgets, but sometimes you gotta loosen the reins. My cousin's trying to build something for himself, for his kids. Ain't that what you always say? Generational wealth?" He thought he was clever, tossing my own values back at me. I crossed my arms. "Generational wealth starts with boundaries, not bailouts." He frowned. "You think I'd ask if it wasn't important?" That line landed heavy. Because no, he probably wouldn't. Not yet. He still believed in asking. Sort of. I wanted to believe he was coming from love, not manipulation. So I gave in. Again. We transferred the money to Terrence that afternoon. I even typed the note myself. Loan. Return by May 15th. It felt official, professional, safe. For a while, things were quiet. Terrence called to thank me, voice warm with gratitude. "You a real one, sis," he said. "You and Dre gon' be blessed for this." I smiled and told myself it was fine. But May came and went. No repayment. No update. When I asked Andre about it, he brushed it off. He's working on it. He just needs another month. Another month became another excuse. By July, I brought it up again. This time sharper. "Andre, it's been 3 months. We need that money back." He exhaled loud. "Why you so pressed about a few thousand? We're doing fine." "Because it's not about the amount," I said. "It's about respect." He laughed. A dry, humorless sound. "You sound like you counting pennies. That ain't love." I felt something crack inside me. "Then what is it, Andre? Enabling? Because that's what it's starting to feel like." He turned away, muttering under his breath. "You don't understand how my family works." Maybe not, but I understood math. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, going through our finances again, highlighting every outgoing payment to someone in his family. In 6 months, we'd helped to the tune of nearly $8,000. 8,000. I printed the spreadsheet and slid it across the table the next morning. "Look," I said, "this isn't sustainable." He glanced at it once and pushed it back. "You think this makes me feel good? Depending on you like that?" His voice cracked then, low and raw. "I'm doing my best, Maya. But you," he gestured at the papers, "you make me feel like a child asking for allowance." The guilt hit me before I could catch it. I reached for his hand. "I'm not trying to shame you, baby. I just need us to make decisions together." He nodded, and for a moment, I thought we'd found middle ground. But that night, when I checked our account again, the balance was lower. A $200 transfer to T. Holmes. I didn't sleep. When I confronted him the next morning, he said he needed gas money for a job out of town. He'll pay it back. I wanted to believe him. But belief had become expensive. Weeks passed. Every time I brought it up, Andre changed the subject. Dinner plans, a new series to binge, a joke to deflect. Then one Sunday after church, his mama pulled me aside on the church steps, sunlight bouncing off her gold bangles. "Maya, baby, thank you again for helping Terrence. You got a giving heart. God gon' bless that." I smiled tight. "He hasn't paid it back yet, Miss Brenda." She blinked, surprised. "Oh, I thought he did." Andre said that's all she needed to say. That night, I waited until Andre got home from basketball with his boys. The second he walked through the door, I asked, "Why'd you tell your mama Terrence paid us back?" He froze, sweat still on his forehead. "What?" "You heard me." He dropped his bag, jaw tight. "Because I didn't want her feeling guilty." "Why you trying to embarrass me over family business?" "Family business?" I repeated. "This is our marriage, and you're lying to me." He raised his hands like I was overreacting. "You're twisting this. You always gotta control everything. It's exhausting." I swallowed the anger building behind my ribs. "You know what's exhausting? Being treated like an ATM with emotions?" Silence. He didn't apologize. He just walked into the bathroom and shut the door. The sound of the lock clicked again, the same sound that would later mark my freedom. I sat on the couch, staring at the TV that wasn't on, and realized I'd crossed the invisible line between helping and being used. The next morning I wrote in my journal, "He doesn't ask for loans. He expects them." And deep down, I knew that if I didn't draw the line soon, I'd lose more than money. I'd lose myself. There's a kind of love that starts feeling like a job. You clock in with affection and clock out drained, wondering when your heart became payroll. That's where I was, with Andre. Half wife, half sponsor, fully confused. After the whole loan mess with his cousin, we barely spoke for days. He wasn't angry. He was distant. That was his favorite punishment. Withdrawal. He'd make his silence sound like suffering, and I'd fold first. Every time. By the 4th day, I came home to find him sitting on the couch, watching an old Lakers game, a plate of cold wings beside him. "You still mad?" I asked, keys jingling in my hand like an apology. He shrugged. "I just don't like feeling like a burden in my own house." That line hit me right where he wanted it to, because the truth was, I hated the idea of making a black man I loved feel small. Every woman in my family raised me on the sermon of stand beside your man. I could hear my Aunt Loretta saying, "Don't let the world beat him down at work and come home to a woman who does the same." So I sat next to him, quiet, Careful. You're not a burden, Dre. I just need us to communicate better. He looked at me then, eyes softening like butter melting slow. I know, baby. You handle money different than me. You plan. I react. That's why we balance each other. Balance. That word felt good. I wanted to believe it. The next morning, he kissed my forehead before I left for work. We good? We're good, I said. And in that moment, I convinced myself it was true. But good became the cycle. A few peaceful weeks, then another favor. Another late-night phone call. Another relative in crisis. Another round of guilt. I started noticing how the requests always came right after we reconnected. Almost like clockwork. Once, he came home from work holding me tight, whispering against my neck, "You know I love how you take care of everybody." Then, an hour later, during dinner, he slipped in. "Mama needs to catch up on her car note." I froze, fork halfway to my mouth. "Didn't we just help her last month?" He smiled. Small, practiced. She wouldn't ask if it wasn't serious. You know how proud she is. He made it sound noble, like I was contributing to something bigger than myself. But pride started to feel like poverty with lipstick on. At work, I was the dependable one. Always composed, always handling things. At home, I was a soft place for everyone to land, except me. My friend Jasmine noticed first. We were at brunch one Saturday, mimosas sweating in our hands. "Girl, you look tired," she said. I laughed it off. "Marriage is work." "Yeah," she said, leaning in. "But it ain't supposed to be overtime without pay." That line stuck with me. When I got home, Andre was in the living room, laptop open, bills scattered across the table. "You good?" I asked. He sighed. "Yeah, just trying to catch up. You know how it is." He rubbed his temples. I watched him, feeling that familiar ache, the one that whispered, "Fix it." So I did. Again. I transferred $400 to the joint account. "Here," I said. "This should help." He looked up, smiled like a man who'd just been saved. "You always come through, Maya. I don't know what I'd do without you." That sentence was supposed to sound like love, but the more I heard it, the more it sounded like a warning. Because what happens when someone needs you more than they love you? That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slow. I tried to remember the last time we'd done something just for joy. A walk by the river. A movie that didn't turn into an argument about money. A laugh that didn't carry weight. I couldn't remember. Instead, I remembered every time I'd said yes out of guilt. Every time I'd said no, and paid for it with silence. The next morning, I drove to my mama's house. She was out back watering her plants, gospel playing low from her phone. She looked at me once and knew. What'd he want this time? I tried to laugh, but my throat tightened. "You always think it's about money." She set the watering can down. "With that man, it usually is." "Mama, baby, I know you love him, but you can't outgive a man who refuses to grow." Her words stung because they were true. She pulled me into a hug. "You been carrying both of y'all on your back. That ain't partnership. That's parenting." I left her house with my chest tight and my mind buzzing. That night, Andre noticed the shift in me. "You're quiet," he said, climbing into bed. "Just thinking," I murmured. "About what?" "About what it means to build something with somebody." He chuckled. "You still mad about that money?" "I'm not mad," I said softly. "I'm tired." He reached for my hand. "We're fine, baby. You just overthink." Maybe I did. Or maybe I was the only one thinking at all. The next day, I started setting small boundaries. Quiet ones. I moved a portion of my paycheck into my personal account before the joint transfer. I told him my bonus was delayed when it wasn't. I said, "I'll think about it," instead of, "Yes." He noticed. Of course he did. "You acting funny lately," he said one night while we cleaned up dinner. "I'm acting balanced," I corrected. He smirked. Same thing. But it wasn't. Because balance, for the first time in a long while, felt like choosing myself. Still, every time I pulled back, the guilt roared. What if I was being cold, unforgiving, too rigid? When you've spent years equating love with sacrifice, self-preservation feels like betrayal. So I swung between both, loving and resenting, giving and guarding, forgiving and remembering. I kept telling myself that once things settled, we'd find our rhythm again. But deep down, I knew the truth. He didn't want balance. He wanted obedience wrapped in affection. And the only thing keeping the illusion alive was my willingness to pay for it. By summer, love started to feel like debt with flowers on top. Andre wasn't just asking anymore. He was expecting. The tone had shifted. No more soft persuasion, no more baby, please. Now it was, you know what to do. It began with small storms. A late bill here, a bounced payment there. He'd come home irritated, tossing his keys on the counter so hard they clattered like punctuation marks to a silent argument. One night, he walked in pacing, phone pressed to his ear. "Man, I told you I got it handled," he snapped, then hung up. He looked at me, jaw tight. "You got a minute?" That question had stopped being a question months ago. "What happened?" I asked. "Terrence's truck got repoed," he said, rubbing his forehead. "If we can just front him the balance, he can get it back." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was predictable. Andre, he still owes us from the last time. He exhaled like I was being unreasonable. "You really gonna bring that up again?" "Yes," I said firmly. "Because that's what responsible adults do. They track debts." He stared at me, eyes narrowing. "You sound just like them people at your job." "I am one of those people at my job," I said. "That's how we still have a house, Andre." He threw his hands up. "You act like it's just about money. It's family." "No," I said, voice steady now. "It's about respect. And I don't think your family respects me. Or us." He went quiet. Too quiet. Then, in a low-clipped voice, he said, "Maybe you don't understand what loyalty looks like." I swallowed hard. That word again. Loyalty. The leash word. The argument didn't end that night. It stretched through the week. Tight smiles in public. Cold silence at home. He started staying out later, hanging with the boys, which was code for avoiding accountability. When he was home, the air felt heavy, full of tension and unspoken math. Then came the power bill. I logged into our joint account to pay it and saw a $900 withdrawal labeled Cash App. My stomach dropped. I confronted him that evening. "What's this?" I held up my phone. He didn't even flinch. "Relax. I needed to help my mom with rent." "With our rent money?" He looked at me like I'd insulted his mother personally. "You act like we ain't gonna make it back. I get paid Friday." "It's not about Friday," I said, voice rising. "It's about trust. You keep making decisions without me. You keep choosing them over us." He stood up, towering over me. "You keep saying us, but you mean you. You always talking like you, the only one that matters." I stepped back. "No, Andre. I'm the only one who's been thinking." His nostrils flared, but he didn't touch me. He just stared for a long, dangerous second, like he was trying to decide whether I was still on his side. That night, I locked the bathroom door for the first time since we got married. I didn't sleep. I kept replaying the way he looked at me, how easily he turned my boundaries into insults. I'd given so much grace. I'd started calling it love. By morning, I'd made a plan. I moved half my next paycheck into a separate account. Quietly. Automatically. I told myself it was just in case. But just in case started feeling like, when? A week later, Andre's tone softened again. That's how the cycle always restarted. The apology phase. He brought home dinner from my favorite spot downtown. Fried flounder and hush puppies. "Babe," he said, setting the bag down. "I know I've been trippin'. I just got a lot on my plate. I didn't mean to take it out on you." I wanted to believe him. I wanted the old version of us back. The laughter, the music, the small jokes that made the rent worth it. He pulled me close, resting his head on my shoulder. "I'm sorry." I nodded, letting him hold me. But inside, something stayed cold. Then, 2 weeks later, his sister called. I could hear the chaos in her voice before she even said hello. "Girl, Andre there. We in a mess right now. Mama's light bill due, my check bounced, and my landlord talking about eviction." My heart pounded. "Have you talked to Andre?" "He said y'all could help," she said quickly. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. When Andre got home, I didn't yell. I just asked one question. "Why does your sister think we're paying her rent?" He froze in the doorway, gym bag hanging from his shoulder. "Because I told her we'd see what we could do." "We?" I asked. "Or me?" He didn't answer. I stood up. "Andre, this is manipulation. You're volunteering my money, my labor, my peace, and you don't even ask." He dropped his bag, irritation flashing across his face. "You're making everything about money again. You always gotta hold something over people, and you always gotta owe them something." I shot back. He stepped closer, voice low. "You talk real bold lately." My pulse jumped. "I have to," I said quietly, "because if I don't, you'll spend us into the grave." He shook his head, muttering under his breath, "You ain't the same woman I married." "You're right," I said. "She's tired." That night, I drove to my mama's house again. She sat me down with tea, and I told her everything. The accounts, the lies, the pressure. She didn't interrupt. When I finished, she reached across the table, gripping my hand. "You've been fighting to prove you're loyal," she said. "But loyalty without limits is slavery." Her words cut clean through my denial. When I got home, Andre was already asleep on the couch, the TV still on. I turned off the lights and stood there, watching him breathe, realizing I didn't recognize the man on that sofa anymore. The next morning, he acted like nothing happened. Made breakfast, played music, kissed me goodbye before heading to work. But while he was gone, I opened my laptop and started quietly transferring my automatic payments back to my personal account. I even called the bank to open a new savings account, just in my name. It wasn't revenge. It was survival. That night, he asked if I could cover another expense. I looked him in the eye and said, "No, just that. No explanation. No guilt." He blinked, confused. "You serious?" "Completely." He stared at me like I'd just spoken a new language. Maybe I had. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in months, but peace didn't last long, because the next time I said no, he didn't just look shocked. He got angry, real angry, and that was when everything began to unravel. It happened on a Thursday night, the kind of humid Georgia evening where the air feels heavy enough to drink. The day had already been long. Work drama, traffic. One of those weeks where exhaustion sits on your shoulders like an extra person. All I wanted was silence, a shower, and maybe half a glass of wine. But Andre was waiting for me when I walked through the door, sitting at the table with his phone in his hand, and a look that made my stomach clench. "We need to talk," he said. I didn't even take my shoes off. "Can it wait till tomorrow? No, Maya, it can't." That tone, the one that sounded less like a request and more like an announcement. I set my purse down slowly. "What is it?" He held up his phone. "Mama called me again. She's behind on her insurance. I told her we'd cover it." The words hit me like a slap. "You what?" He blinked, feigning confusion. "It's just $400. We can swing that." "We can't swing that, Andre," I snapped. "You keep committing my money without even asking me. Do you realize how insane that is?" He stood up, the chair legs screeching across the tile. "I'm not about to sit here and let you disrespect my mama." "This isn't about your mama," I said, voice shaking but steady. "This is about you. You keep doing this. You keep—" He cut me off, shouting now. "I keep doing what? Trying to help my family? You act like money's the only thing that matters." My hands trembled. "Money isn't the problem. Lying is." He slammed his fist down on the table. The sound cracked through the room like thunder. My heart jumped into my throat. "I'm so sick of this," he said, voice low and vibrating. "Every time I try to do right, you make me feel like a beggar in my own house." I took a step back. "Andre, listen." "No, you listen." He pointed at me, jaw clenched. "You think you better than my family because you got some fancy job and a degree? You think you can talk to me like I'm one of your little coworkers?" My chest burned. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make him see how much of me I'd already given. Instead, I whispered, "I just want peace." He laughed, a harsh, ugly sound. "Peace? You mean control." That's when I knew something in him had snapped. Or maybe something in me had, because for the first time I didn't try to calm him. I didn't rush to fix it. I didn't apologize for something that wasn't my fault. I just stood there, breathing through the fear. He saw it, the defiance, the quiet refusal, and it made him angrier. "You know what?" he said, pacing now. "If you ain't gonna help, then don't call yourself my wife. I need a partner, not a warden." "I was your partner," I said. "You turned me into a bank teller." He moved closer, close enough that I could smell the cologne he always wore when he wanted to feel powerful. His voice dropped to a whisper. "Watch your mouth." I froze. Not because I thought he'd hit me, he never had, but because I finally saw that he could. The potential was there, coiled behind his anger like a snake. I took another step back until I felt the wall against my spine. "Andre, I'm done," he scoffed. "Done with what?" "This," I said, motioning between us. "The begging, the guilt, the disrespect, the pretending." He laughed again, but his eyes didn't match his mouth. "You think you can just walk out?" "I know I can." He shook his head slowly, like he was watching a child throw a tantrum. "You ain't going nowhere. Not after everything I've done for you." I almost choked. "Everything you've done for me? Andre, I've carried us. You carried yourself," he said. "Don't act like you built this life without me." My voice cracked. "Then why does it feel like I've been surviving you instead of living with you?" He stepped closer again. Too close. His breath hit my face. "You better lower your tone." Something inside me snapped. All the swallowed no's, all the quiet yeses, all the forced forgiveness. I felt them all rise up like a wave. "No," I said. My voice came out firm, calm, final. "I'm not lowering anything. I'm done dimming myself so you can feel tall." He blinked. "What did you just say?" "You heard me." We stared at each other for a long, heavy second. Then I reached behind me and found the doorknob. I didn't plan it. My body just knew. He frowned. "What are you doing?" "I'm leaving." "Maya." The lock clicked. That small metallic sound cut through everything. The shouting, the tension, the years. He grabbed my arm, not roughly, but enough to make me stop. "You really gonna do this? Over some money?" I turned to him, tears stinging my eyes. "It was never about the money, Andre. It's about me trying to save someone who doesn't want to be saved." He let go, staring at me like he didn't recognize the woman in front of him. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he missed the version of me who always said yes. I grabbed my purse, my keys, my jacket, the essentials. My hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. "Maya, don't you walk out that door," he warned. I took a breath that felt like the first one I'd taken in months. "Watch me." And I did. I opened the door, stepped out into the thick Savannah night, and walked straight to my car. Behind me, I heard the door slam. His voice followed, muffled through the walls, but I didn't turn back. My car was parked under the streetlight, glistening with humidity. I unlocked it, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. My reflection in the rearview mirror didn't look scared. She looked ready. The road ahead shimmered, stretching north toward Atlanta, the only place that still felt like refuge. I gripped the wheel, wiped my face, and whispered to myself, "You did it." Then I drove, headlights slicing through the dark. Every mile between us felt like breath coming back into my lungs. And even though I was crying, somewhere deep down, I was smiling too, because for the first time in years, I was finally free. The night swallowed me whole as I turned out of our neighborhood. The streetlights flickered like nervous witnesses, and the air was thick with that southern humidity that clings to your skin and your sins. My fingers gripped the steering wheel so tight they hurt, but I couldn't loosen them. My heart was sprinting faster than the speedometer, and every bump in the road felt like a heartbeat outside my body. The radio was off. I didn't need music. The silence was loud enough, just the sound of the engine, my breath, and the occasional rumble of a semi passing in the other lane. I told myself not to cry, but tears have their own schedule. They came slow at first, like a leak you think you can control. Then all at once. I wasn't even sure what I was crying for. Fear, grief, anger, or relief. Probably all of it. I hit the highway ramp toward I-16, that long stretch that connects Savannah to Atlanta. The city lights faded behind me, replaced by endless darkness and pine trees leaning over the road like they were whispering, "Go, girl. Don't stop now." My phone buzzed in the cup holder. Once, twice, then over and over again. I didn't have to look. I knew it was him. I reached over, turned it face down, and kept driving. The vibration kept going until it finally stopped. Then started again. Texts, missed calls, voicemails, all of it blurred into white noise. At some point, I whispered to myself, "You're okay. You're okay. You're okay," like a prayer. But the thing about leaving someone you once loved, it's not clean. It's jagged. You drive away bleeding from cuts nobody can see. 20 miles in, the adrenaline started to fade. My stomach twisted with hunger and nerves. I pulled into a gas station just outside Statesboro, one of those late-night places lit by fluorescent lights that make everyone look guilty. The cashier, a young black woman with box braids and tired eyes, nodded when I walked in. "Evenin', baby. Evenin'," I said, my voice hoarse. I grabbed a bottle of water and a pack of peanut butter crackers, then stopped by the bathroom mirror. That reflection didn't look like the wife who used to smile through Sunday dinners. My mascara had smudged. My curls were frizzed from the humidity, and there was a tiny scratch on my cheek I hadn't noticed before. I leaned close and whispered to myself, "This is what freedom looks like, huh?" The woman in the mirror didn't answer. She just looked tired and alive. When I walked back to the counter, the cashier eyed me for a second, then said, "You good?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Getting there." She smiled, sliding me my receipt. "Keep going then. Don't look back." It was such a simple thing to say, but it landed like gospel. Back on the highway, I opened the window and let the warm wind rush in. The night smelled like wet earth and possibility. Somewhere in the distance, a train wailed, a long, lonely sound that made me feel less alone. That's when the flashbacks started creeping in. I remembered the first time Andre told me he loved me, on that pier by the river, the sky painted in gold and lavender. I remembered the way his voice softened when he said my name, the way I thought love could fix a man. Then I remembered the first time I cried quietly in the bathroom after one of our fights, sitting on the edge of the tub while he watched TV in the next room. I remembered thinking, this can't be what marriage is supposed to feel like. The memories came in waves, good, bad, tangled, but with every mile, they lost a little of their power. I passed a billboard that said, "Jesus saves." I laughed through my tears. "Yeah," I muttered, "but tonight so do I." Somewhere around Dublin, I pulled over at a rest stop. The parking lot was mostly empty, just a couple of trucks idling in the corner. I reclined the seat, turned off the engine, and let the crickets sing their midnight hymn. That's when the phone started buzzing again, this time with a new number. My chest tightened. I answered, just in case it was my mama. "Maya?" It was him. Andre. I didn't say a word. "Baby, please," he said, voice low and shaking. I didn't mean for it to go like that. I lost my temper. Come home, okay? We can talk. I stared out the windshield, the glow of the dashboard painting my hands blue. "I'm not coming home, Andre. Maya, don't do this. Don't throw us away over a stupid fight. It's not one fight," I whispered. "It's a pattern. It's years. I'll change, I swear. I hung up before he could finish. Then I powered the phone off completely. The silence afterward was deafening, but it was mine. I closed my eyes for a few minutes, just breathing. My body finally began to unclench. My shoulders dropped. My jaw relaxed. My heartbeat slowed. That's when I realized I hadn't felt safe enough to breathe like this in a long, long time. Before pulling back onto the road, I texted my cousin Danny in Atlanta. "Maya, leaving Savannah. Need to crash with you. I'll explain later. Danny. Doors open. Drive careful." Just like that, I had a destination. By the time I hit the outskirts of Macon, dawn was breaking. The sky turned soft pink and orange, and for the first time all night, I felt something close to peace. I thought about my mama, how she used to tell me that every woman has a moment where she's faced with a choice: stay small for someone else, or stretch for herself. And as the city faded behind me, I whispered, "I choose me." The road ahead glowed in the sunrise. The fear was still there, sitting in the passenger seat like an uninvited guest, but it was quieter now. And as Atlanta's skyline began to appear faintly in the distance, I realized something simple but powerful. I wasn't running away. I was driving toward my freedom. By the time the sun fully cracked open over the Georgia horizon, the world was dipped in gold. The light hit the trees like forgiveness. The highway stretched ahead, long, endless, steady, and for the first time in years, I wasn't rushing anywhere. I wasn't late. I wasn't responsible for anyone else's survival. I was just driving, breathing, and remembering. The morning fog clung low over the pines, and the hum of the tires felt almost meditative. I cracked the window just enough for the wind to slide through, tangling my hair as it passed. Somewhere between Dublin and Macon, my thoughts drifted backward, to the women who raised me. My mama, Bernice, used to say, "Ain't no such thing as a weak black woman. We just get tired different." I was maybe 8 the first time I heard her say that. She was sitting at the kitchen table, balancing bills under the glow of a crooked lamp, her glasses sliding down her nose. I remember asking, "Mama, what's that mean?" She smiled without looking up. "You'll see when you're older." I hated that answer back then. Now I understood every word. I could see her in my mind, her hands rough from work, her shoulders always squared. She raised me by herself after my daddy left when I was 4. Never bad-mouthed him, never begged him to stay. "If someone can leave, baby, let 'em," she'd say. "Your peace ain't a negotiation." I thought about all the lessons I had ignored in the name of love. Mama tried to teach me that partnership should feel like rest, not responsibility. But I mistook struggle for proof of devotion. I believed that if I could just give enough, love would behave. Somewhere around Warner Robins, I pulled into a small diner for breakfast, the kind of place with peeling vinyl booths and a bell that jingled when you walk in. The waitress, an older black woman with silver braids, smiled and said, "Mornin', sugar. Coffee?" "Yes, ma'am," I said, sliding into a booth. She poured me a steaming cup, her bracelets clinking as she moved. "You look like you've been on the road a while." "Since last night," I admitted. She raised an eyebrow, but didn't pry. Long drives got a way of sorting things out. I smiled faintly. "That's what I'm hoping for." She gave me that knowing look older women always seem to have. "Whatever it is, baby, it don't own you. Remember that." I nodded, tears threatening again. "Thank you. Thank the Lord," she said. "He the one who keep you steady when the world don't." When she walked away, I stirred my coffee, watching the cream swirl like a tiny storm before it calmed. I thought about Andre again, about how many times I confused chaos for passion. I remembered our first dance, our wedding vows, his promises, how I thought I could love him enough to make him whole. But love that constantly costs you your dignity isn't love, it's debt. I finished my breakfast quietly, left a big tip, and hit the road again. The diner faded behind me, but the waitress's words stuck like scripture. The highway rolled on, smooth and wide, and my memories kept spilling out. I remembered being 16, standing in the kitchen watching Mama argue with the landlord. He was threatening to raise the rent, and she was 2 months behind. When he left, she sat down at the table, stared at the bills, and muttered, "They think because we women, we weak. They don't know strength till they meet it with a skirt on." That night, she picked up an extra cleaning shift, worked 12 hours straight, and still came home to braid my hair for school. That's what resilience looked like. Quiet, steady, unstoppable. I also remembered my grandmother, Miss Edna, who ran her own beauty salon out of her living room back in the day. The place always smelled like burnt pressing combs and cocoa butter. She'd be waving that comb like a magic wand, telling her clients, "Baby, your crown don't need no permission to shine." When I got older and straightened my hair before every job interview, she'd say, "Don't you ever dim down to make somebody else comfortable. Those women built me. They molded me with love and lessons wrapped in laughter and hard truths." Somewhere along the way, though, I forgot. I let Andre's version of love drown out my own. I turned the radio on just to fill the silence. Some old Mary J. Blige song came on, one of those tracks that lives deep in the bones of black womanhood. No more pain, no more drama in my life. I laughed through the tears that started all over again. "Girl," I said to the wind,